We're just rooting for laundry anyways. Welcome back into Southwest Bias. And yeah, essentially we are rooting for clothes from Phoenix to beat clothes from another city when we root for sports. At least that's what Jerry Seinfeld said in one of his stand-up specials. And it's the truth. In the end, that is really what we're rooting for, because a lot will change, but usually the uniforms and the colors, in most cases, stay pretty much the same. But I actually think we're in a renaissance for uniforms here in Arizona right now. It started when the Suns launched their City Edition uniforms that included the Valley. It was a new look and something interesting that represented the city, the sunset, the first time we saw the Valley actually embraced on a uniform and what it means to so many of us. Because, yeah, Phoenix is where the Suns play, but the Valley, the entirety of the Valley, is really who supports this team. And it was really cool to see those that represented the city so well. The Cardinals listened and got new uniforms recently, and they hearkened a little bit more back to what they were when they arrived in the Valley, rather than those monstrosities that we saw Reebok put out and then wind up staying when Nike took over. But now they have a look that is better and closer to what we've expected from them. But I actually think the Diamondbacks have set the gold standard recently, which is funny because I think for the longest time, they probably had the weakest of the major sports teams here in the Valley. I mean, we even saw the Mercury redesign their uniforms and go to something that was a little bit more interesting in a league that has brand names right on the front. Well, the Diamondbacks still had some things that they needed to work on. But this last iteration that they came out with has been fantastic. And previous to that, when they came out with their original City Connect uniforms and the Serpientes with the sand, it was something different, something we hadn't seen. I love that. But these new uniforms with the red and the teal that this team can really own as their color in this town and really in sports in general are a breath of fresh air. They're some of my favorite iterations since the original uniforms that came out when the team arrived in the Valley in 1998. They're unique. They've got flair. They fit the city. They're fun to wear if you're a fan, and they have a distinct look to them that says, hey, I'm an Arizona Diamondbacks fan. And I love that. But I particularly love with what they came out with on Monday, their second version of the City Connects. It combines what we've loved about all their uniforms throughout the years. The pinstripes from the original uniforms, the purple that was an institution in the beginning of this franchise, the block A that we've seen since the beginning. You also get the snakeskin that we saw at one time and the gradient. You get the Serpientes that remains from the last City Connect jersey. You get the teal from this new group of uniforms as well. It's this amalgamation of all the things that we loved about our Diamondbacks throughout the years put into one really, really cool look. That's something very unique in Major League Baseball and unique in these City Connect uniforms. When you look at that, you cannot deny that you're looking at an Arizona Diamondbacks jersey. The snake pattern in and of itself gives it away, but then the purple, that teal, the flag, it says Arizona born on the inside. You see on the hat, the Serpientes S. This is really a beautiful pairing of so much that we've loved about those shirts that our city has worn. I think that this was a very big win for the Diamondbacks to go back and embrace a color in purple that meant so much to the fans when they won a title. And it's come back in bits and pieces and Throwback Thursdays. But this really feels like the first time that the franchise and owner Ken Kendrick is saying, welcome home to the purple on a more permanent basis. You're going to see these once a week on Fridays, that the Diamondbacks are going to wear these new City Connect uniforms. Purple is back in a big way with these uniforms, and fans seem to be resonating with it. I was at the team shop when they released them on Monday morning, and there was a line. There were people buying these things, buying the hats, buying the jerseys, buying the shirts, and buying them in large quantities. So I think that purple makes you remember that team that captured all of our imaginations, at least those of us that were alive back then, in just a handful of seasons. They won the World Series the fastest ever, and those teams, and that team in particular, will always hold a very near and dear spot in our hearts. And I'm glad that the purple is back, and I'm glad that they honored it in a way of kind of honoring each chapter of the Diamondbacks' history when it came to their uniforms. This is a beautiful jersey, a beautiful uniform that I think fans will embrace, much like they did with the Valley uniforms for the Suns. Because, yeah, I do think we're in a uniform renaissance for sports in the state. And that's including ASU and U of A, who have done some great things both with their basketball and football uniforms. And I'm sure they'll continue to iterate. If you love rooting for the laundry that is Arizona's, I think you love it even more right now as a fan. But maybe that's my Southwest bias. On the other side of the break, Kenny Ferrell, the Senior Vice President of Marketing for the Arizona Diamondbacks, joins me to walk us through the process of how long it takes to come up with a jersey like this, and how the hell do you keep leaks from happening so it doesn't ruin the surprise. Hey, it's Espo back to tell you about my friends over at Circle K. I love being a member of the Inner Circle because you know what? When I signed up, I saved 25 cents off per gallon of my first 5 fill-ups. And with how far I drive every day, we're talking nearly 100 miles between home, dropping my daughter off at school, coming to work, and going back home. I need to save every cent I can. Those 25 cents were great, but then I saved 3 cents off, and then I reached the Espo level, and I got a full 5 cents off per gallon just by signing up to be an Inner Circle member. And you know what? I love their Inner Circle fuel days because you save even more. You save 40 cents per gallon from 6 a.m. till the end of the day. And they got more coming up soon that you're going to want to be involved in when it comes to that. So pay attention to Circle K on social and right here on our show. We'll keep you all up to date on when that next fuel day is coming up for Circle K. So join the Inner Circle today by downloading the Circle K app for free. And all it's going to take is putting in your phone number. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Summer is upon us, and you know what is at a premium? Shade. And my friends over at All Pro Shade Concepts have you covered. My wife and I had this giant sliding glass door that for nearly a decade, we could not figure out how to cover and keep the summer sun from beating straight into our kitchen. I swear, it raised the heat in my house unbelievably. It got sweltering just because of this giant glass door acting as a magnifying glass. But my friends at All Pro Shade Concepts came over, gave me a free estimate, walked my wife and I through everything in terms of what the materials were, how the process was going to work, and they sold us. It was fantastic. But you know what was even better? The installation. They were clean, they were quick, and it came together exactly the way that they told us, and it looked exactly like the photos of their products that they showed us as well. I couldn't be happier with my All Pro Shade Concept shade, and I think you will be too. So call the number 623-204-1476 or visit allproshadeconcepts.com now to schedule your free estimate. You won't regret it. Extremely excited to welcome in Kenny Ferrell, the Senior Vice President of Marketing for the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're going to talk about the City Connect uniforms that were just unveiled on Monday. Kenny, thanks for joining me.
Great to be here. It's just a fun day and excited to talk about it.
Well, take me a few steps back. How does this come to fruition? Where does this start? Does Nike reach out and say, hey, we're going to refresh. I know there's a schedule for these, so we're going to refresh these. And then what's the process like for you as a marketing department working with them to get to this final design?
Yeah, it goes back quite a ways. So, before 2021, we knew that Nike wanted to start the City Connect program with Major League Baseball and bring, with the V1 to life starting in 2021. And then over the next 4 years, you saw, the majority of the teams, I think 28 of them, released their City Connects in their first version. So we always knew that was going to be a temporary run. So it's set to be a 4 year run. So we've been able to enjoy the San Serpientes since 2021. And then we really started working on this really hard in late 2022 into 2023.
How many iterations do you go through before you actually land on the one that winds up coming to fruition? Because I worked for the Suns for a brief time, and I saw them go through the process with both Adidas and Nike. But how many iterations do you think you guys saw during this process?
It was a pretty seamless process as we went through it, and that we kind of start just thinking more broadly about who we are as a team, what our history has been as really one of still the youngest teams in baseball, what Arizona and what stories we want to tell about Arizona and the city. And even though they are city connects, the Arizona piece and representing the entire state is really important to us. And so you start to kind of narrow in on, even colors and mood boards and thinking about what story we want to tell as we look at this option. And so it didn't take too long for us to really kind of narrow in on the concept of purple coming to life in this version. And from there, a number of different ideas on how to kind of make that come to the final version that we see today.
Was Serpientes always where you wanted to go, or were there some experimentations about potentially trying something a little different, like we saw some of the other teams iterate on their City Connects?
Yeah, I think different was definitely where we started, probably. Like, let's take a fresh look and do something completely off the table that we haven't seen before. But as we kind of really saw what was coming to life and really saw the connection that our fans have had with the Serpientes brand over the last 4 years, it's something that we didn't really want to walk away from. It's become an important part, something that fans wear with pride. It's something that really connects when we think about who our city and our state is with the local Hispanic market and the Mexican American roots that really kind of make up a lot of the people that live in the city. We really wanted to see if we can continue to find a way to keep that alive in this version. And we're super excited that we're able to do that.
You mentioned the color purple. Obviously, that harkens back to the beginning of the franchise as one of the key colors. And then you bring in the newer generation teal that is in this uniform as well. How important was it to have these elements from different generations on this uniform? Because obviously the pinstripes harken back to that, the snakeskin, all these kind of tie together to tell the story of all the uniforms.
Yeah, I think it was always going to be an important part of the story we want to tell. I mean, we're very proud of our past. We're very proud of our history. We're very proud of our World Series championship. And we know the fans, many fans, still connect to that as their, one of their earlier memories of this team and maybe how you grew up in this market and how you grew up around this team. So a chance to kind of bring the purple back to life was definitely at the top of the list in terms of this, but also looking at that in a reimagined way and thinking about how do we continue to be present and future of the Arizona Diamondbacks. So to kind of blend all of that and bring the history together while also being kind of new and unique and in today's style, I think was something that was a challenge that we were excited to try to bring to life.
I think the smallest details are some of the coolest things about these uniforms that you guys put together. The state with the 1998, obviously, that represents when the team started, but the 1948 that's hidden in there as well. The Arizona born, and in the hat, the flag on the inside. How painstakingly did you guys go through each little detail to make sure that it really represented this state and this fan base?
Extreme detail. I'd say when you talk about like the number of versions, the core jersey probably had a certain amount of versions that we went through, but the details had many versions, and we were very specific. They need to represent us. They need to be authentic to who we are. The flag patch specifically was something that we had on our original Serpientes, and because we also had an A logo on the side there, we felt like we, ultimately ended up not having that in the more recent seasons. So to be able to bring the flag patch back and tie to the entire state was really important. The State 48 is just so creative, to be able to bring out, again, represent Arizona and then Arizona born. So all three of those features are meant to represent the entire state.
I got to tell
So
you,
when you think about, oh, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
No, just when you think about like what we were able to do in terms of this being a City Connect project, but for us to think about this statewide, all of those details were extremely important on how they came to life.
I got to tell you, as a lifelong resident here in the state and a fan of the team since day one, that Arizona born really resonated with me. I saw the shirt out there that you guys have as well at the team shop. And I think there's something really special about that because, as you guys state in the marketing material, the Diamondbacks are the only team that was born here in the state that started and has Arizona in the name. And I think there's a real power to that you guys brought to the forefront.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we represent the entire state, all the community, and we know that we have fans all over the state. We have fans watching all over the state. We have fans that are driving to Phoenix from all over the state. And so it's important for us to make sure that we're reaching out to everybody and not just those in the city.
Is there a detail in it that is the one that maybe you as a marketing group are most proud of, or something that maybe hasn't been noticed as much as the other details?
I mean, I think there are a lot of important details. I don't know if there's one that we're most proud of. I think those, ones we just talked about are probably at the top of the list, but even just the creative way we brought back pinstripe, through it kind of, with the dark purple pinstripe. The way we were able to bring back a bit of a faux sleeveless look to kind of resonate back with that 2001 jersey that everybody loves so much, with the dark sleeves on the purple snakeskin body. I think all of that has been great to see come to life. And then, just the whole way that players can like bring this to life has been so exciting to see their own personalities, with their gloves and their elbow pads and belts and shoes and socks. Like all of that is exciting. I think socks maybe haven't been talked about enough. So I'm really excited to see this come out on the field Friday night and watch how the players really show off their own personality with it.
Yeah, the socks were great in the photos that you guys sent over. I got to know though, because there's obviously leaks that happen in this process for everybody and in all sports. How difficult was it for you guys to ensure that that didn't really happen until kind of the last moment? And how nerve wracking is that as somebody overseeing marketing that obviously puts a lot of time into releasing these things right?
Yeah, you want to tell the story, right? It's more than just like a piece of cloth on the table. And so while some of those leaks were close and some of those leaks were not close, and ultimately I think late last week, kind of the final version on a model was kind of shown. We always knew that when we could tell the story of what this was about and we could show it on our players and see it come to life, that it was going to be special. But yeah, you want to keep the secret as long as you can. But you also know that it's also out of love and excitement, right? I see Gurriel's shoe show up on Instagram, 8 weeks ago, and it's followed by 10 comments that are all fire emojis. So if that's the reaction, I'll take the pre-excitement. But yet you're still trying to like bring this all to this moment where we can kind of drop something and get everybody excited all at one time.
Oh, you mentioned that the team's going to be wearing them this weekend, but when else can fans see these on the field this season?
Yeah, we're going to wear them Friday and Saturday this weekend as part of our celebration of Mexican Heritage Weekend. And then our plan is to wear them every Friday night the rest of the season. I don't think we'll have a Friday that we don't wear them. We may have a few extra days that we add along the way, just because we enjoy them so much and want to make sure we get a lot of fun out of them.
And then all the merchandise available at the team shop as of right now and online, correct?
Yeah, totally. Everything's available. Team shop's stocked full. They have not only a ton of jerseys, but the ability to customize your own personal jerseys, whether you want to get your favorite player, making sure you have it, or your own name on the back. Whatever works for you, we're ready to take care of it. And we've been open since 10 a.m. and busy all day long. So excited to see fans continue to come in and shop all the new merch. And there'll be continuing stuff that will continue to come in over the next few weeks and few months. This is something that will be out there for several years. And so we want to make sure that we continue to add ancillary pieces that people can keep putting in their collection.
I'm a hat addict, so can we get the 1998 and 1948 on a hat? Maybe can we pull some strings potentially?
Well, let's do it. We can do it for sure. Yeah.
Sounds good. One last thing I wanted to ask on that same vein when it came to the hats. I noticed in the team shop there is a teal hat with a purple A. Is that a batting practice hat that will go along with this collection as well?
There is a batting practice cap in the team shop as well. Yeah. So there's a special BP cap and then the on-field cap, and then the variations of those that you'll see along the way. So this is the A that we'll see kind of pop out on that cap, and just whether the S, whether the A, however we want to do the purple and teal, there'll be a lot of like fun combinations we'll see.
Love it, Kenny. Anything else you want the viewers to know about the City Edition collection?
No, just that it's excited to have it out there, excited to connect with our fans, appreciate the positive reaction that we've seen so far, and looking to bring this to life and get a bunch of wins in these uniforms. Hopefully they become our lucky charm.
He is Kenny Ferrell, Senior Vice President of Marketing for the Diamondbacks. Really appreciate your time, Kenny.
Thank you very much for having me here.
So we're going to wrap this episode up of Southwest Bias talking about, you guessed it, more uniforms. If you couldn't tell, I'm a uniform nerd, an aficionado, a guy that collects far too many of the examples of great and bad uniforms from Arizona history. I like to consider myself almost a historian of uniforms in the state. And I am excited that the Arizona Cardinals are going to be adding a new jersey to their lineup this year, as the NFL and Nike are kind of releasing this new concept, very similar to the City Edition and City Connect, but they're rivalry uniforms, going to be worn in select NFC West games this year. And now that you can have multiple helmet shells and this additional jersey, I'm excited to see what the Cardinals can actually do with them. Me personally, I hope they harken back to the white uniforms from their early days in the Valley with the Arizona State flag on the arm. Remind you of the Jake Plummer days, the Pat Tillman days. Tie in that first playoff run and some of the great feelings of that into the current iteration of this team. Kyler Murray has said he loves those uniforms. He even told Johnny and Bo when they interviewed him last time that he loves those uniforms. I hope that that is kind of built in to this rivalry uniform and something new that we see. Maybe even a harken back to that old Cardinals logo as well, with a fresh spin on it, something that ties it into the Valley a little bit more even. And maybe it's not white. Maybe it's a different color that ties in to the Valley. Maybe it's a gray. Maybe it's a sand. Maybe there's some other different spin in terms of color, but that it has elements of those original uniforms, because those are some of my favorite that came out from the Cardinals throughout the years. They had unique details that were unique to the state, but also were simple enough that you didn't overcomplicate what is a very traditional look over the years for the Arizona Cardinals, going all the way back to their Chicago Cardinals days. I can't wait to see what they cook up for these rivalry uniforms, and I hope it's very much like what we saw with the Diamondbacks and the Serpientes uniforms and the Suns with the Valley uniforms, that it's something that we all can kind of gravitate towards and enjoy and add a little something else for the fans to wear. Because again, like Jerry Seinfeld said, we're just rooting for laundry anyways. That's another edition of Southwest Bias in the books. I'll be back with a few more this week. Plenty coming up with Brian Gregory talking for the first time as a member of the Phoenix Suns organization, and a few other things that we've got up our sleeves. So until then, big thanks to my guest, Kenny Ferrell, for stopping by from the Arizona Diamondbacks. Big thanks to, well, the mustache isn't behind the Mac, so I'll thank myself for producing. And you know what? As we always say, we'll talk to you next time. Ahoy, ahoy.
We all silly like the mayor.